Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Johns Hopkins School of Education Doctor of Education virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions. Also here with me, I have my colleague from the Office of Admissions, and she will introduce herself.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya McMillan. I am an admissions coordinator here at the School of Education.
Also presenting today, we have Assistant Director of Financial Aid, Jen Coveney, current student of the EdD program, Jennifer Timmer, Dr. Yolanda Abel, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Advanced Studies in Education. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute right now. Please have your mic on mute at all times during the presentation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the chat box and we will answer your questions. Next, I would like to share the agenda for today's presentation. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Abel will go over the program details of the Doctor of Education program. We also have a current student speaker, and she will talk about her journey here at SOE. And lastly, we will cover admissions requirements and financial aid and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. We are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. For school enrollment, we have approximately 2,465 students and offer more than 30 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we have a strong network of over 22,000 SOE alums. For faculty introduction, Dr. Yolanda Abel is an associate professor and chair of the Department of Advanced Studies in Education. Dr. Abel received her Doctor of Education from Johns Hopkins University, and her research focuses on school, family, and community partnerships to better support outcomes for CLD learners. Lastly, Dr. Abel was awarded in 2018 the Transformative Teacher Educator Fellowship and in 2017 Excellence in Mentorship Award. At this time, I am going to hand the floor over to Dr. Abel. Dr. Abel will be presenting on the Doctor of Education program.
Thank you for joining us. I am a faculty member within the EdD program, and I have been since its inception in 2013. It is a program that was designed to help practitioners such as yourself examine complex educational problems and to apply tenets of both social justice and research to helping to solve that issue or to make it better in some way, shape, or form within your respective professional context. To help us do that, we have a mission statement that basically exemplifies our transdisciplinary perspectives. As we are individuals working in complex organizations, it is quite hard to approach that from just one angle. So what are the various ways and philosophies that an issue needs to be examined? Systems thinking, again, we're all in organizations, we're not just disparate individuals. Improvement science, what is a systematic way to look at what we are doing and whether or not it is having the desired impact? Rigorous methodology that goes along with that in terms of being able to look at what we did and its success or not. And again, the program has a commitment to social justice. How are we making outcomes better for all learners and the individuals who work with them? So this is a program that was designed for the experienced practitioner, someone who has spent some time in his or her respective field and has really been grappling with the issues in an effort to make some aspect of education a better experience and produce better outcomes for a particular group of learners or a variety of learners. So again, as part of this process, if you choose to apply to this program, we are looking at the examination of real world issues and concerns, things that are happening in your workplace, and what is an intervention that we can do, help you design to better impact whatever that issue is and have the positive outcome that you are looking for. And that requires a constant evaluation of what you're doing and again, how it's working or not working. The improvement science from the prior slide is something that is embedded throughout this program. So as a potential applicant, you need 90 credits beyond your bachelor's. Most masters are 30 to 36. The program requires 36. If you come in with fewer than 36, you will need to take a few additional credits to make up whatever that number might be, depending on, if you got a 33 credit, so on and so forth. In addition, if you meet that threshold of 36 credits and have additional, sometimes there's a 39 credit master's or even a 42, you can potentially transfer 6 additional credit hours into the program. You must complete 48 hours with us in the School of Ed as part of the EdD. For this upcoming fall, we are taking 3 specializations: the entrepreneurial leadership in education, the mind, brain, and teaching, and the instructional design and online teaching and learning. If you are a student who has gone through the NBT certificate or master's here at SOE, you need to pick a different specialization, but this is what we're offering for the upcoming year. So why this program? It is rigorous, it is relevant, and it can be powerful in terms of how you look at what you do and the intended intervention, as well as other practices and processes that might just go into the day-to-day aspects of your work. It's typically completed within 3 to 4 years. It is designed to be completed in 3 years, and it is possible. It is an online asynchronous program with aspects of synchronous support, which we'll talk about in a few moments. And the dissertation is taken up in your coursework. So from day one, you are working towards completing your doctorate. We are structured that you are taking Foundations of Education courses that are 12 credits plus electives. You have 9 credit hours of applied research and eval, 12 credit hours of your specialization. You can also do some electives depending on what you are taking. So what I mean by that is if you're doing mind, brain, and teaching and would like an elective from ELE, that's a possibility. And then 9 credit hours towards the applied dissertation, where you're doing more focused dissertation work than what's going on in your coursework. So key competencies and transition points within this program, because again, from day one in that first class, you're starting the process. So at the end of year 1, we have what we call the year 1 paper, which is the examination of factors related to your problem of practice, which become the chapter 1 and chapter 2 in your dissertation. Your comprehensive exam is an oral exam, and it happens the following year, year 2. It is focused on the core courses. And then once you have gone through that, your dissertation proposal, which you also defend orally, and you will go through that process of collecting and analyzing your data. And then that last milestone is the dissertation defense. So thinking about, is this the right program for me? It is a culmination of independently completed but closely interrelated projects. And what I mean by that is, I said in day 1 in those first fall classes, you start the process, but that's not your chapter 1. It's the start. The year 1 paper that summer, while it also is the basis, it still won't be the final version. This is an iterative process, and it is a process that you revisit as you learn more through this program, so that by the time you finish, you are producing a quality dissertation that hits all the major components and requirements. So your key focus is that problem of practice within your professional context, and looking at ways that you can impact that to move forward and both have an impact in your professional practice and meet the requirements for the doctorate of education as well. So this is an intense thing to do. You are working adults, you have a variety of family structures and responsibilities and commitments. So things that we do to help you through this process. If accepted and you choose to attend, there's an online orientation to get you acclimated to both SOE and JHU systems, such as the library and how to do research. There's a face-to-face orientation, COVID allowing. Obviously, this past summer, we had to be virtual because of the pandemic, but it's face-to-face. It's here in Baltimore. We'll talk about that a little later. We have faculty cohort leads. There's someone who's designated for year 1, for year 2, and year 3. They are also faculty within the program, teach and advise within the program, and get to know the major milestones and tenets of each of the respective years to help you through. The advisor is also your dissertation chair, and we as instructors are also working towards the completion of you earning this degree and having a quality experience. Again, what starts in the class, again, the iteration, the nature of moving. There's a dissertation and a writing clinic to support that, library webinars, and we have cohort sites for every group that comes in, as well as an overarching program. So there's lots of information and support out there to help you through this process. This is a visual of what the mandatory online orientation looks like. Again, once accepted and you choose to come, you'd be given access to this, and this is to be completed prior to coming to the face-to-face orientation, if we can do that, and virtual if we can't. This is a picture of one of the cohorts. I want to say that we were at the Lord Baltimore Hotel, but I could be wrong because I don't remember really. But just an opportunity. If you can see that person in kind of that brownish dress behind one of the women squatting, that's actually me in the picture. So it's an opportunity to both get to know the people who will be in your cohort, the people who are in cohorts ahead of you, and us as faculty and staff. So again, orientation residency, when the world allows, is face-to-face. It's late July, 2 to 3 days. It can be completed electronically from a distance, even when we are face-to-face, but there is something to be said for coming and being present and having the opportunity to interact. But the sessions are recorded and available for listening for people who who cannot attend in person for whatever reason. Again, it happens about 2 to 3 days, and it allows you to not only network, but it is targeted. So the orientation as an incoming group is very focused on what you need to get to start. Orientation for year 2, very focused on comps and what you're thinking about. Year 3 is both focused on the dissertation and what might come next after you have earned the doctorate. These are examples of past dissertation studies. I am not going to read the list. I will say that I was the co-advisor for the one that is entrepreneurship in Escribo, an ed tech company in Brazil. He has published from that dissertation. He is doing some continued research with myself and his co-advisor. So depending on what your area is and what your own personal goals are, it isn't just a let's get the dissertation and be done. There may be publications and future opportunities for collaboration to continue research as well.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. At this time, I would like to introduce you to our student speaker, Jennifer Timmer.
I'm Jen Timmer. I am a current student. I actually just successfully defended my dissertation a week and a half ago. So I guess I'm technically Dr. Jennifer Timmer. But I have been in the education field for 22 years. I have been in both general education, special education settings, and specifically working with students with behavioral and emotional disorders. Aside from my teaching position, I also work in the area of family and community mental health professional development, which was part of my dissertation topic and my dissertation study. So why I chose the SOE EdD program was I am a full-time working adult. I also have an elementary age child. I also have a middle school age child, which is tough to do a doctoral program with young kids. So I wanted a program that took into account the flexibility needed, but I also wanted a program that was rigorous and had a strong research leadership team, because now that I have completed my EdD dissertation, I am actually moving on into the research field. So I felt like the EdD program hit both the life stance, the life part that I needed, but also was preparing me to take that next step in becoming more of an administrator research within the education field. My specialization was the mind, brain, and teaching specialization. And my dissertation topic focused on elementary student health. Most of the research that I had looked at before focused on adolescent mental health. And being in the elementary world, I wanted to focus on elementary student mental health. And specifically, my dissertation topic was about the impact of professional development for elementary teachers in regard to student mental health and student reintegration after the psychiatric hospitalization process. Highlights from my career as a student at the EdD program was, first of all, that I just defended my dissertation, which took me 3.5 years, mostly because of COVID. COVID kind of came over and took over the research possibilities that were out there. So I am finishing that up. Both of my defenses, I will say that were highlights, were my proposal defense and my dissertation defenses. Although they were daunting going into, they were really great times of learning through discussion as a scholar. And in light of that, my Hopkins dissertation, or Hopkins advisors, really took on as not just me as the role of a student, but as a scholar, and worked collaboratively in that way. So I would say that all of my professors, I had Dr. Abel as a professor, that all of the Hopkins professors that I have had really work together as a team to promote success. They want us to learn as much as possible and to get to the point of defending the dissertation with a quality product. In light of that, advice or tips that I would give to anyone looking is to engage with classmates and professors regularly. Reach out to professors, not just when you have questions about coursework, but with questions that you may have about things that arise in your professional context, or questions that you have about future research topics. I have found it really helpful to engage with the professors. And to piggyback off from something Dr. Abel said, during those orientation and residencies, if it is possible to come to Baltimore for those, I have found those extremely helpful in the networking. Like Dr. Abel said, I now am actually working on research with someone that I had met during one of the residencies, as I was able to attend all 3 in person. And it also is helpful to just have the opportunity to meet the professors one-on-one, and to be able to talk about research and the research areas that interest each individual. Also, to piggyback off Dr. Abel, she has said a few times now that it's an iterative process. And I know in the program, I'm pretty sure I heard this from Dr. Abel, is trust the process. Trust the process. What you think going into the program will have multiple iterations and change. And what I entered the program in with my problem of practice and the framework, the way that I conceptualized that problem has changed almost. It's interesting to look back at what I started with to what I'm now ending my dissertation with, and how many times it changed. And all of those iterative changes made my product so much better and made me come out of this program not only proud to now be Dr. Timmer, but proud of my learning as a researcher and proud of what I can take to my district now, and how those iterative processes not only changed my product, but also changed the way I think and how I approach educational issues in my professional context.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now moving on, we are going to continue by going over the application requirements. Applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on our website. Keep in mind there is an $80 application fee. Next, you will need an updated resume highlighting your educational and professional background. Your personal statement should not exceed more than 750 words describing a problem of practice relevant to your current context of professional practice. Be sure to align your problem of practice with one of the 3 specializations. Moving on, you should submit 3 letters of recommendation, and these letters should include at least the following: a professor you've worked with in your master's program who can speak on your competency to conduct rigorous scholarly work, and a professional recommender who can attest to your qualifications to pursue a doctorate degree. And this recommender would support your problem of practice. And please keep in mind, you are able to submit 3 professional references if you're not able to have an academic reference. And one final note is to make sure one of your professional recommenders is your executive sponsor. Your executive sponsor should be someone who will be an asset in helping you gain access to data and/or participants related to your problem of practice. Next, the GRE is not a requirement for admissions consideration to the EdD program. It is optional for an applicant to submit a GRE test score as part of the application. However, submitting a GRE test score is an opportunity for you to present additional evidence of the quantitative and verbal skills required for the doctoral level study. Official transcripts. We need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, please keep in mind this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. And lastly, all applicants will be asked to complete a virtual interview upon submitting their application. And one more thing that I would like to note is that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are currently experiencing heavy delays in mail received from the U.S. Postal Service and some private mail service carriers. Please order your transcripts as early as possible, especially if your school only mails paper transcripts. And Dr. Abel, we receive a really good amount of questions relating to the problem of practice and executive sponsor. In addition to what I just shared, please feel free to share any additional information on the problem of practice and executive sponsor.
Thank you. So while it is very true that we want you to focus on a problem of practice, we really do want you to focus on the problem. At the juncture of writing this letter and in essence introducing yourself in this personal statement, you don't need to go overboard with the quote unquote solution. By all means, if there's something you are particularly interested in, you can share it and talk about how it might be the option. But as you just heard Dr. Timmer say, her problem of practice has evolved over time through her coursework and the conversations that she's had throughout this program. So kind of the version that ultimately becomes the impetus for the intervention study, it might be slightly different. So really focus on the problem. And focus on the problem in such a way that there is some aspect of it that you can quote unquote approach. I obviously don't know you as individuals, but if you have some familiarity with research, you can't do all things. It's just not humanly possible in a quote unquote research setting with real people, with humans. So to be thinking about what you can make an impact on. And again, this program is really structured around your work, your professional context. So this executive sponsor person is ideally a person who works with you. It is a person with some supervisory capacity in so much that they have the quote unquote authority and awareness to be in support of you being able to do research when those times come. And I'm saying times because in that year one, you'll do a needs assessment to see what are the issues that are most prevalent and germane in your professional setting in relation to your topic in the larger literature base. And then when the time comes, you'll do your intervention study. So that executive sponsor should be someone who is in support and will acknowledge that they are aware that you're doing this program, that this program entails research, and that they are in support of that being able to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. Moving on to the admissions timeline, the EdD application is open for fall 2021 admission. You will be able to find the application on the school's website. The application deadline is January 6th. Any supporting materials, for example, your official transcripts, letters of recommendation, virtual interview, must be in by January 22nd. Applications will be reviewed from February to mid-March, and finally, admissions decisions will be released mid-March. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score, and if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on our website. And at this time, I will hand the floor over to my colleague, Jen, and she will go over tuition and financial aid. Thank you, Jen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Much for being with us. Happy that you're here. My name is Jen Coveney. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at the Johns Hopkins University School of Education. As you can see on the slide here, we have the tuition and fees listed for you. For the 2021-22 academic year, the estimated cost per credit is $1,531. So $1,531 is the per credit cost, and the number of courses students would complete is 18. So the total cost of the program would be the $1,531 times 18. And you would also want to include the technology fee, which is $15 per credit, and a registration fee of $175 per semester. For financial aid and scholarships, the EdD program, students in the EdD program are eligible for federal financial aid. So the federal loans available for graduate level students include the unsubsidized Stafford loan. Students can receive up to $20,500 per academic year in the federal direct unsubsidized Stafford loan. If additional funds are needed, students can also apply for the federal direct graduate plus loan. Students can borrow the plus loan all the way up to the total cost of attendance per year minus other aid received. So what that means is that if the $20,500 would not be enough to cover all of your tuition and additional expenses, students can apply for the Graduate Plus loan to cover additional expenses, including living items, books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportation. Federal financial aid is only available to students who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents. To apply for federal aid, you would need to complete the free application for federal student aid, which is the FAFSA. The FAFSA can be completed online at studentaid.gov. In order to be eligible for the federal loans, students must be enrolled at least half-time. Half-time is 4.5 credits or more per semester. Because your courses are typically 3 credits each, students would need to be enrolled in 2 courses per semester to be eligible for federal aid. Students that are interested in receiving federal aid are encouraged to complete the FAFSA application at the same time you're applying for admissions. In addition to federal financial aid, there are also limited grants and scholarships available. There are 2 different types of scholarships. We have the EdD program specifically has funding for merit-based scholarships. Those scholarships, I believe, range between $500 to $2,500 per semester, per year, per academic year, and they are awarded directly by the EdD program because they're not looking at financial need. Those are solely based on merit. The merit scholarships are open to both international students and domestic students. The other type of scholarships available are the endowed scholarships. Those range between $500 to $1,500 per semester, and they are specifically for students that are US citizens or permanent residents. For the endowed scholarships, there is, in addition to the FAFSA, another application that students will need to complete, and that is the endowed scholarship application form. And that typically becomes available in January every year. For the merit-based scholarships awarded by the EdD program, there is no additional application form required. The only thing that you would need to do to be considered for those is to apply for admission. So anyone applying for admission is considered for the EdD merit scholarships. Thank you so much. I hope that's been helpful, and I am also available. We'll stay on in case you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Jen, for joining us today. And wrapping up, so here on this slide, we do have some important contact information. If you have any questions relating to your application, please contact admissions coordinator, Tanya McMillan. And any program-related questions, please contact academic coordinator, Kathy Chow. Thank you for attending the Doctor of Education program presentation. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions. Please type your question in the chat box.
Thank you, Sion. I'll start reading the first questions here in the chat box. We have one from Shelley. Is the program designed in a cohort basis or is it individualized? And the program is cohort based. Is that correct, Dr. Abel?
Yes, but you are a person and an individual. So in terms of trying to make sure that it fits your needs and the adjustments that might be needed for you, that is always going to happen and be a part of this process. But you come in with a cohort within your specialization, and depending on your life circumstance, you travel through the 3 programs. However, when you take a class, you might be mixed across cohorts, like if you're in multicultural ed or disciplinary approaches to education, though obviously when you take your specialization courses, that would be cohort specific.
Thank you. Next question we have from Adam. Are courses synchronous online or a combination of synchronous and asynchronous?
Courses are asynchronous and they are supplemented by synchronous sessions that are recorded. The expectation is not that everyone will attend. We have students who are across the world. So when you just start thinking about time zones, that's an almost impossible thing to accomplish that everyone could be possible. So courses are asynchronous.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. Next question we have from Kimberly. Which of the three programs tends to have the most applicants? Are programs all the same size?
In terms of the cohorts that we admit, yes, we aim to have the same number come in. Obviously, that is dependent on the number of applicants. Historically speaking, ELE concentration tends to get the highest number of applicants, but again, we aim to have fairly standardized numbers across the cohorts.
Moving on to our other questions from the next one's from Shelley. Are participants in K through 12 and higher ed in the same cohort?
Yes. So this really is by specialization type. So you could have someone who is a classroom teacher, someone who is a principal, someone who's a superintendent, someone who works in industry, someone who works as an educational consultant. The coursework is differentiated in so much that if you're asked to do something, again, you are applying it to your context, to your professional type. We do our best to provide a broad array of literature looking at issues from various vantage points. So yes, you would be intermixed with people from all types of fields within education, broadly defined.
The next question from Dorothy. What are recent alumni doing now?
The program was not intended for people to necessarily earn a doctorate and quote unquote move jobs. So most, though not all, stay in their job because that was not their intent. For those individuals who were interested in moving on, like Dr. Timmer shared with us a few moments ago, some have transitioned into higher ed faculty positions. Some have been promoted within their respective fields. One of my former advisees, once she earned her D, she actually wrote the new job description that she wanted and presented it to the president of her institution, and they created that job for her. So a lot of it depends on what your, again, personal goals are. Your advisor, if you have an interest in doing something different, is a person, you know, to share that with, and they'll talk to you about how and why. There are opportunities in coursework. Some courses have choices. So like if there's a choice to do a manuscript or something of that nature, and you're thinking you want to transition into academia, that might be the assignment choice you pick. But for the most part, people tend to stay in their given positions.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. The second question, how long does it take on average for people to complete the program?
I think Dr. Timmer's 3.5 that she talked about herself, even though they had that COVID exception, is probably a good gauge. The program, while designed to be a 3-year program, is designed to be a 3-year program where for the most part you are finishing by the August of that 3rd year. And while you become Dr. whomever, when you successfully defend, and Hopkins has 3 graduation cycles, we only have 1 traditional May when you quote unquote walk, because you know we couldn't do that last year either because of the pandemic. So it really is about who you are as an individual, what your job is like. Students who in general take longer to complete this program may switch jobs for a variety of reasons, might have personal health issues or family members with health issues, and obviously need to take time off or slow down their program to adjust to those types of life events.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. Next question we have from Liza. Would we have one professor advisor throughout, and how closely will we get to work with them?
So in our currently structured program, that first year towards the end of the first semester, so around this time, you would be matched with your advisor who also becomes your dissertation chair. And yes, if it's a good match, that is the person that you stay with throughout the time in this program. The way the courses are set up, since again, some of the coursework translates and builds the foundation of your dissertation chapters, there are assignments that require you to interact with your advisor, to share your coursework with your advisor, so you can get feedback and that person is involved in the crafting and development of those elements that become a part of the dissertation. So you work fairly closely with that person.
Thank you. And another question we have related to advisors. How do advisors get matched with participants?
We look to do the best fit among our available advising pool and who the student is. And notice how I said that, the best fit. So for sake of discussion, I've advised students who've had an interest in CTE, technology. They've been based in schools throughout the US, one in Maryland, one in California. And prior to the first one, CTE is not necessarily my background. I do have lots of background in schools. I'm a former school teacher myself. And so we do that, but what you want most is that person who can help you navigate this process and meet those metrics towards completion. But it is a choice in that we make a suggestion and each of you have an opportunity to speak with one another and see if it would be a good fit for moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. The next question that we have from Sarah, does the program have options to take courses at other JHU schools?
At this point, no. Again, 48 credits are required to complete this from SOE in terms of what's needed towards the total 90, including the masters you come in with. And the way this program is structured, for the most part, you are on this trajectory if you'd like to finish in a timely manner.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. The next question is for Dr. Timmer and Dr. Abel. This is a question we get often. Can you speak about the balance between JHU classes and workload and that of being a teacher in the classroom? Do you have any tips on staying sharp in both settings and staying on top of the work?
Dr. Timmer, would you like to go first since you are much more on the ground with this?
Sure. I will say I definitely do not have all the answers of finding that balance, but one of the things that I have found is just like being a classroom teacher, the work seems to ebb and flow. And one of the things that I have found that worked for me personally is really making sure, and this is going to sound simple, but staying organized. I had a specific, because I'm a paper calendar person yet, I had a home calendar and I had a Hopkins calendar and made sure that I was constantly looking at those. One thing that I had, Dr. Marcy Davis was one of my advisors and she was my cohort lead. One of her recommendations that I took for granted at first was check your Hopkins email a couple of times a day. And I think as ubiquitous as that sounded, that really made a difference. I could tell if there were busy days in the classroom that I didn't check my Hopkins email on a particular day. I always wished that I had. So as simple as that sounds, one of the things that I found staying sharp with Hopkins is checking that email multiple times a day. Another piece of advice that I would give in the Hopkins is we do Blackboard posts. We do post to questions in the classes. And sometimes those can be easy to overlook. But throughout my classes, I have found that, it can be the posts are due Sunday nights and the next post is usually due on a Sunday night. Waiting until that end to look at them was not as beneficial, but taking time each day, even in small chunks, say 5-10 minutes to read the posts that are already there, did two things. It helped me stay current with what I was learning that week, but it also helped change my way of thinking and be able to ruminate on different ideas throughout the week. So I would say to really be focusing, checking in on posts that people have posted in Blackboard and checking in with email was really helpful.
I concur. You need a schedule. That schedule needs to build in not only work responsibilities and the responsibilities associated with being in the program, but also family time and relaxation time, but also with the caveat that some of that may shift. The one thing that I don't think we can do is add more time to a given day. And if someone has figured that out, please tell me. I would love to know. So if you're going to choose to do this, you will need to make the time for it. You will need to do the readings. You will need to do the writing. You'll need to do the revising. You'll need to be in the course site, listening to the videos, responding to the discussion prompts, and so on and so forth. That time has to come from someplace. So you will need to adjust. So a schedule, one that's realistic and one that allows you the opportunity to take a moment and to refresh and rejuvenate, because it is a heavy load. There is no other way around that.
May I piggyback
Mhm.
on that? I had said earlier, I have an elementary age student and a middle school student. So what I typically found worked was that, like Dr. Abel said, is you have to, it is a heavy workload, but you need to make time for yourself. What I started doing was, I'm a runner, is instead of waiting until after teaching to run, I put that running time in the morning. That helped me get ready for the day. And then I would consistently, even if I didn't feel like it, work on my Hopkins stuff every night once my kids went to bed. And then my husband was very gracious that Saturdays were my Hopkins days, that I devoted almost the entirety of Saturdays to working on either coursework or working on the revisions to my year one paper or any of my chapters. Whether I had something specific due really was irrelevant. I still worked on dedicating that Saturday to Hopkins work.
Thank you. Next question we have seems to be a little more admissions related, from Kimberly. If we were accepted into the program in 2018, do we need updated 3 letters of recommendation? So it sounds like you may be reapplying. If that's the case, yes, you would definitely need new letters of recommendation. We do keep letters and can transfer them over if they were within a year. So you'll need to add the names of your recommenders to the application online, and we'll send an email out to them, inviting them to submit a recommendation on your behalf again. Next question we have from Mohammed. If my academic reference is from over a decade ago, should I obtain another professional reference? And yes, I would definitely say so, Mohammed. You should obtain another reference that's specific to this program that you're applying to here at the School of Education.
Thank you, Tanya. The next question we have from John is, in terms of credit hours, if you have a master's from another Hopkins program, will be guaranteed the 30 to 36 transfer credits coming in? To answer your question, yes, you are able to transfer up to 36 master's credits from your master's degree upon review of your official transcripts. Next question we have is, hi, is this program only for practicing educators?
I don't know if that person could add a little clarification of what they mean by practicing educators, because no, it's not necessarily people who are in P-12 schools. I said we also have people in industry. There was a student who worked for IBM in South Africa, but kind of did the marketing, or excuse me, the training and professional development for them. So you need some educational, I guess, touch point, but I don't really know what you mean by education.
The next question we have is for Dr. Timmer. What were the most challenging aspects of completing this program online, and what was an aspect that pleasantly surprised you?
I think, to be honest, I would say that finding that balance of time was a challenging part of the program. Another part that I would say is not challenge in meaning it negative, in a negative connotation, but the program really challenges you cognitively, and it challenges the way, it challenged the way I viewed the world. One of my best classes that I have taken, and I'm not just saying it because she's here, was multicultural education with Dr. Abel, because it challenges to look at the world through a social justice lens, which is how my problem of practice changed from the beginning to the end, with looking at the social justice for elementary students with mental health disorders. So it's going to challenge the way you view the world, and it's going to challenge the way you view the work that you do. But that was also pleasantly surprising. As far as also pleasantly surprised, I was really pleasantly surprised at how well my cohort, the individuals in my cohort, how we leaned on each other for advice. We also leaned on each other to answer questions and give each other support. It was a great group of people that we had that surrounded each other professionally and personally with relationships. So I think when sometimes people talk about a program that's asynchronous and wondering if that's the right fit or not, I found that the EdD program had a great balance of, while there is asynchronous learning, it's also very personable and it's also very relational.
Thank you, Dr. Timmer. Next question we have from Izzy. Is there a written description of the executive sponsor role that we can share with the person who will serve in that role for us? And yes, Izzy, I can actually email that to you. We do have a description when we get email inquiries that I can certainly share with you, and I'll send it out to you tomorrow. The next question that we have is from Elena. If we cite research in the problem of practice, is it expected to list the references? And if yes, would that count towards the 750 words? I would believe so. The full personal statement should be 750 words. Do you have something to add to that, Dr. Abel, perhaps?
I don't know how the system counts. So usually when we ask for word counts, things like references and title pages don't count, because you do those separate, like at the end, but I genuinely don't know how the system counts words. So I can't be that helpful for that one, I'm sorry. I know people have done it. I mean, when I say they've done it, they've added references to it and it's gone through.
Okay, that's very helpful, thank you. Next question we have from Shelley. I have attended another EdD program and have some coursework from that program. Would I be able to transfer some of those credits?
So you can transfer six graduate credits in, and that's not a blanket answer. The program has a credit transfer form, and basically if accepted and you're choosing to come and want to pursue that option, you would complete that and provide copies of the syllabi for those respective courses, and it would be reviewed by the program director and or the department chair, and a decision would be made. So it's not an automatic transfer, no.
The next question we have is, how much do we get to collaborate with our cohort?
Probably more than you would generally want to on some levels. So again, courses have teams, small group teams, might be larger group teams in terms of doing assignments and activities within the course. Most of your graded assignments will be individual to you. We encourage you greatly to make those connections. As Dr. Timmer was talking about, the support that you offer each other in terms of looking for additional resources, ideas, when it's time to study for comps. Even though someone might have a slightly different quote unquote problem of practice, they might have a great reference that will be beneficial to you. So they're both the intentional as kind of one of the, as well as the organic ones that arise as y'all get to know each other and find the commonalities across your work and your potential research.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. The next question we have, which is a frequently asked question, will we need to select a new executive sponsor if we leave our current roles while pursuing our EdD?
To some extent, that depends on your circumstance. On some levels, these are not blanket answers, but you want that person to be more closely aligned to your professional setting. I'm hedging slightly because if you're a consultant in an educational setting, if you leave one position and go to a different company, but kind of the broad base stays, that person might still be available. But yes, it is possible and permissible to change executive sponsors if and when the job change and necessitates it.
The next question is, my master was 34 credits. So if we want to take a course at another institution prior to beginning the EdD program in the fall of 2021, who can I contact to ask if the course would be accepted by JHU?
When you are offered acceptance and choose to come, Kathy Chow, whose email was shown a few slides ago, she will let you know that you are quote unquote short the required number of credits towards 36 and make the recommendation that you find some place to take that course over the summer if that will fit your schedule so that you can have it completed prior to actually starting fall classes. So again, that will be worked out as needed.
Thank you, Dr. Abel. I noticed we do have a few questions about the tuition fees. Tuition fees are $15.31 per credit plus a $15 technology fee per credit. I will be happy to email anyone that does email in and want a cost estimate worksheet. Our admissions department did work up a cost estimate sheet for the program that is very helpful to see the costs associated with the tuition fees and to attend. So I'd be happy to email any of that information out to anyone that's requesting it. My email address was shown on the previous slide, and we'll share that again at the end of the presentation.
It looks like we have 1 minute for questions. The next one is this program intended entirely for academic professionals, or are applicants from different backgrounds, not necessarily academic background, encouraged to apply, such as folks from nonprofit contexts?
Yes, we have had people from nonprofit contexts. If you reach out to Kathy, in addition to the possibility of speaking to other students in this program who are willing to chat with prospective applicants, faculty are willing to do that as well. I know that I have spoken to several people who wanted a little bit of a one-on-one in terms. So if there's something that you would like to pursue, by all means, feel free to do that. And but yes, it's all about how you craft what you do, and you just need an education connection.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abel. Unfortunately, we are out of time. If your question was not answered, please email your questions to admissions. In addition, I would like to share that we are offering an EdD virtual office hour on December 1st between 4 and 5 p.m. Please visit our website to register for the event or reach out to admissions to learn more about the details of the virtual office hour. Thank you, Dr. Abel, Dr. Timmer, and Jen for being here today. It was a wonderful presentation. And thank you again, everyone, for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great evening, everyone.